is doing the show intro. And this right here is one of my lifelong friends, K Fitz, I believe is what he's called.
Well, how's it going there, JJ? How we enjoying the extended hockey season of the playoffs going on right now?
You know, I'm enjoying it. I have a confession to make, and you're well aware of this. I didn't think Dallas was going to make it through Colorado.
Well, honest and truly, coming into the playoffs, they were on that 7 game skid. I hadn't lost complete faith in the team. I just lost faith in the passion that I was seeing on this team. But that passion seems to have come back. Now, I, like yourself, honestly didn't see them making it through the Avalanche either. In fact, in Game 7, it was looking very dreary when I believe they were down 2 goals to nothing. And I'm just like, well, it was a good season. I was already telling you, here's a good season, hey, there's always next season. And next thing you know, bang, bang, bang. But, here's a funny thing. So I was telling my wife, because she was sitting right next to me as I was watching the game. And of course, she could see my frustration. And she's just like, don't worry, it's just a game. It's just a game. And I'm like, I know, I know. And she says, well, do one of your things that changes things up. So I said, okay. So I messaged JJ and I said, and I told my wife this. I told my wife this. I said, I'm gonna bash on the Stars, which is something I try not to do during a game. And I said, I'm gonna tell JJ the game is over. It was, not looking good, and we'll see what happens. And as soon as I did that, the Stars turned it around. So if the Stars get going down, JJ, expect me to start messaging you telling you how bad they're doing.
Hey, whatever works. Like, I'm one of those people that if they win and I'm wearing a certain shirt, I'll wear that shirt the next game. So,
Yeah, I'm like that too, especially during football season. When I'm watching a game. If my Texans are doing good, I have several Texans jerseys. If they do bad in a game, I won't wear that jersey anymore. I'll wear a different jersey the next game. But if they win, I'll continue wearing that jersey.
all right, I'm in good company.
There you go. Yeah. If you're not a superstitious fan as a sports fan, you're not truly a sports fan, and I'm sorry.
Isn't it a
There's
little
just too
weird?
much,
Go ahead. Sorry.
there's just too much superstition out there that can prove that it's for real. And my wife can attest to this. When she first started watching football with me, because she was not a big football fan or a sports fan in general. She's still not into hockey or anything like that, but she's getting there for football. But when we first started dating, we weren't even married yet. We were just dating. We were watching a game, and the team I was going for, the Texans, were up, and my wife made the crucial mistake of going, "Oh, they've got this." And I looked at her and I said, "What did you do?" She goes, "What are you talking about? I didn't do nothing." And they lost that game by like 3 points by a field goal. And the team they were going against, I forget who they were playing, but they came back on them, and it went to overtime, and the Texans wound up losing by a field goal. And I looked at my wife at the time, and she looked at me. And she goes, "Oh, that's ridiculous." So it happened. So it happened again. We're watching the game. The Texans were up. She went to say it, and I said, don't. And she said, "Oh, whatever. They got this." And they lost again. So ever since then, she knows we have certain traditions. When the Texans score, I kiss her. I'm not going to kiss her unless the Texans score because that's bad juju. If they score, I score. That's kind of how it is. And if I kiss her and it's, hey, look, it's happened where we've kissed by accident because sometimes when you're married, you don't think of things. And we've kissed, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh no. And she's like, oh, it'll be okay. And they lost. So it's like, nope. We follow a strict regiment when it comes to that. So superstition is a big thing to me, and I believe in positive energy, positive in, positive out. So right now, if I can go to some positive, What about our one-man gang? Our one-man wrecking crew is what I've dubbed him.
You mean Miko Suave?
Miko Ratman. Yes, that's who I'm talking about. My
Ooh.
goodness. Honest and truly. And he's been part of these dynamic duos here lately, if you've noticed. It's either him and Johnston or him and Hintz. Have you noticed that? It's like he's Batman and Johnston's Robin, or he's Batman and Hintz is Robin. You know, it's
Yep.
kind of an interesting dynamic that's been going on for this team, where those two have really been the point winners and the goal scorers for this team.
Yeah, it's been fun, but I mean, at the same time, it's kind of concerning. Like somebody said on Facebook, I kind of agree to it to an extent. I'm struggling to say this, but when Miko's your only offense, uh-oh, you know?
Yes, it is a big uh-oh, and it's a big thing to look at. However, you also got to look at it from the standpoint of Rantanen hasn't been the big offensive gun that he has been in the past as of late. If you look going into the playoffs, yes, he has scored, but even when he first came in, I think his first couple games, the first couple scores he got were both open netters. They weren't any of these goals that he's been getting here lately. So I think a lot of the focus has not been on Rantanen. A lot of the focus has actually been more on if you hear anything real quick, I'm gonna break for a second. So my daughter came over right before we started this show, and she's got my grandkids out there. So I told them, hey, keep them out there for right now until after I get done with the show, and then I'll come hang out with y'all. But so if my grandson pops his head in here, he's just interested to see what Opa's doing. So,
Ah, that's
but
cool.
anyway, but anyway, back to what I was saying. So a lot of the focus has been more, if you look at how teams have been playing us, they've been focusing on the Rope Henses, Wyatt Johnston's. We haven't had Robertson out there. So, yes, while it is somewhat concerning, but if you look at how and look and see how defenses, especially how the Avalanche played us in the last couple games and how Winnipeg played us in this first game, they really didn't put a lot of focus on Rantanen. They put more focus on some of our more seasoned guys, some of our more in their minds, the threats.
Yeah, that's true. And he's kind of thumbing his nose up at the people that go, or not go, but they used to say, "Are you sure you want to trade Stankoven for this guy?"
Yeah, I mean there was a lot of that going on. In fact, I want to say I was of the minority when this trade went off, and yes, I was upset. I wasn't happy that we lost Stankoven. I was a huge Stankoven fan, but if you remember when this happened, I told you this was probably going to be for the greater good.
Yeah.
I told you that, look, I know it's an emotional thing, and a lot of our fans are being emotional about it because Stankoven was one of the favorites out there. He really was. Uh, I was on his bandwagon, you were on his bandwagon, and a lot of fans were. But you got to look at it in the big picture. Sometimes you can't focus on that small picture. Imagine if that trade had not happened. Do you truly think that we'd have made it through the Avs? I don't.
No, heck no. No, no, no. We would have been, I think we would have been swept.
Yeah, I believe that as well. And you know, Rantman's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove. He's always been the backup. He's always been the, well, he can't get it done without so and so. He
Hmm.
can't do it without so and so. So and so is doing it. I think this is all kind of played into why he came to Dallas. Yeah, he turned down offers. He came to Dallas for a purpose, for a reason. And I think we're seeing it now. And I think going into the playoffs, I think he held back. I think he held back. I think he said, you know what? I'm gonna let everything out when we hit the playoffs. I'm just gonna let it all flow and I'm gonna let it all go. And I think I think that game 7 woke him up. It's kind of like, even though I know it wasn't said in this way, but it's like back in World War II, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, uh, the admiral of the Japanese Navy, it's not really truly quoted, but it's one of the more famous possible quotes because it's possible that he said this. I think we've woken up a sleeping giant. And I think, something woke up in him. The Avs, something in him woke up this sleeping giant, and he's just been on a tear.
I mean, as much as fans talk about him, he probably saw something from them.
Yeah, that too.
Like the Avalanche fans, like you said, you know, he can't do anything without so and so. So and so was the guy that carried him. Blah blah blah. But then,
And, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
but then he comes to Dallas, and now everybody's flipping. Like, oh, we blew that deal. Trying to keep it
Yeah,
clean there.
no, no, and that's 100%, and it's 100%. And you know what? I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him. And now, if I can change gears a little bit, as you mentioned something, fans can have a great effect on players. So now I'm going to give a little bit of warning to the Jets fans out there. I would not keep up with this backup U.S. goalie thing that y'all are trying to pull on Ottinger. Because I'm telling you, yes, Ottinger can have his good games. Yeah, he can have his bad games. But when you start challenging him and you start putting him into positions like that, you're going to get the best of him. And I'm telling y'all, you don't want that. So actually, you know what? Keep it up. Keep it coming. But I'm giving you fair warning. You may want to think twice before going after Ottinger. What do you think?
I think it's kind of funny that that little deal's in their mouths to begin with. You're
Yeah,
Canadians. Why do you care about Team USA?
exactly. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, okay. We technically lost the championship in that, but we dominated the first game. Complete domination. So, if you ask me, they were lucky to even be in the championship game. We were still one of the only undefeated teams going into that. So
You talking the four nations?
I am.
I'll shoot that down and say it's not the Olympics, so it doesn't even matter. It's a participation trophy.
Exactly. It's like,
Boom.
woo, yay. It's almost like winning the Pro Bowl back nowadays. Not back in the day when it was actually a Pro Bowl game. Now it's like, ooh, flag football or whatever it is, or challenges now. I don't even know if they've actually got a game anymore. I haven't watched the Pro Bowl in like 3 or 4 years.
I haven't watched the Pro Bowl since I was a teenager.
Well, because it's not the same anymore.
No, because even back then, didn't it have home field in the Super Bowl implications? Or am I off
Uh,
there?
no, I think it had some. I don't think it really had a home field. I mean, it might have, but the Super Bowls never really had a home field advantage. It was just what color you were going to be on, which side of the field you were going to be on. The Super
Yeah.
Bowl is one where it's actually in a neutral site usually. So
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say, because it's obviously a neutral thing. Neutral site. There we go. That's the word. But, you know, to me, that still plays a part because of the crowd.
it does, it does. But what I'm saying it had meaning is it was an actual game. Yes, you weren't allowed to blitz the quarterback and things of that nature. It was an actual game. It was actually
Yeah.
players out there playing to win a game. It's not some skills competition. And yes, here's a funny thing. They had a game and they still had skills competitions back then. And the competitions back then were like exciting, in my opinion, way more exciting than they are now.
Oh, yeah, the
Especially
punt,
the
pass, and
quarterback
kick.
challenge. Yeah, when they had the quarterback challenge, they had the running backs, and they do the different skill sets and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you.
So
Flag football on the
anyway,
beach now.
yep. But back to hockey. Um,
Yeah, that's what this is the breakaway.
but back to Ottinger. I honestly, truly, Winnipeg. You don't want to start poking that bear. I get where you're coming from, and I'm going to tell Stars fans the same thing when Winnipeg comes down to Dallas. Don't heckle. Don't act fool. Let's act like we've been there before.
I mean, some Winnipeg fans are kind of friendly, so they deserve the same treatment.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in social media feeds, not
Right.
in person, because I really don't know. I know of one, and he hasn't spoken to me in a couple days. He might be busy or he might be mad.
Well, this is gonna be interesting. I can tell you one thing. So far, home ice has not been a great thing for teams in this second round.
No, it really hasn't. But I do. The crowd atmosphere in Winnipeg. I think I sent you a video. If not, I meant to. I sent it to somebody where they measured the sound volume.
Uh-huh.
It was like 25.7 decibels or something like that in that arena.
Wow.
That place, those fans are nuts in Winnipeg. And that's cool to see. I'll give them that much. But I
Have you
mean,
watched the
huh?
Have you watched the Winnipeg We Want the Stanley Cup video yet?
I no, I need to see it. Do you know where it is?
Yeah, it's been all over my Facebook feeds. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. So, somebody mentioning what the backstory of that is, real quick. Apparently, a radio station did it as a parody, making a joke, and I guess it just took off. So that's kind of their theme. And of course, everybody's been poking fun at it on the Dallas Star sites because they've got that and we've got Pantera. It's like that versus Pantera. I'll go with Pantera all day
Oh,
long.
yeah, I have seen that. I think.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, it is. Pantera wins every time. By the way.
Yeah. So we've got what game two is tonight, isn't it? Yes, it is.
Game two is in 8-ish. No, 7.5,
Yeah,
something like that hours.
yeah, something like that.
And
Um,
it's national. So when it says it's going to start at 8:30, it's actually going to start at 9. Apparently.
right, yeah. Um, I hope the Stars can continue to bring the intensity. Um, as I told you, I know you didn't watch it too much. You could definitely see some rust in Robo's game. His passes weren't as crisp, and he was kind of off point on some of his uh, on some of his play. His shots on goal weren't as crisp. In fact, at one point he threw a shot in and completely missed the entire goal, which is not. I'm not saying Jason Robertson doesn't do that, but that it doesn't happen too often, and I get that. So I think he'll do a lot better in this game because this will be his second game back. So we might get a little bit more offense out of him. Uh, I'm hoping that first game kind of made some of the Winnipeg players think that they don't have to consider him a threat because let me tell you something. Take your eyes off of Robo for a few minutes, and I'm telling you, he'll make you pay.
Put him on a line with Miko. Keep him there, rather.
Right, and let's not forget Wyatt Johnson. He can come up with some gamers as well.
They've started calling this kid Mr. Game 7 now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's kind of earned that moniker, if you ask me.
Okay, that's cool. But I want to see him get Mr. Game 4, Mr. Elimination.
Well, I'm going to tell you this much: if the Stars can get in there tonight and come out of Winnipeg with a win and go down to Dallas up 2-0, I'm I'm feeling really confident about. I think we win this in 5, possibly 6. I don't see it going to a 7 if they win 2 in a row. Not saying it won't, but because Winnipeg, of course, they're the number one team. They've got the President's Cup, but as we've discussed in the past, sometimes that cup can be a curse.
Yeah.
I mean, they got it. They got through the first round by the skin of their teeth. In all honesty, it was not looking too good there for them to even get out of the first round. So
Overtime, game 7 against the Blues.
yeah, didn't it go into like 2 overtimes, 2 or 3
Yeah,
overtimes?
yeah, it did.
So, you know, you're talking about the skin of your teeth. That's a little too close for my comfort.
Yeah, if I'm Winnipeg, I'm talking just as much trash as the Stars fans, and that's not very much. At
Yeah,
least not from what I've seen.
no, no. And I don't. One thing that I have, I don't think, and I think the Stars are doing pretty good because Winnipeg just doesn't seem to have the speed that the Avs did. So, you know, one thing that the Stars have had to kind of do is adjust their game to a little bit more of a slower game than what they just got done facing against, Colorado. Colorado was just a speed team. I mean, they were really quick. And I mean, if you just look at the shots on goal on Ottinger in that first series, I mean, I want to say they were something like 3-1, 4-1, something like that through the entire series, uh, which is not an odd thing. I mean, there have been many a times where the Stars are down shots on goal, but still come out winning somehow.
Well, it's not the shots on goal you have; it's the ones that are accurate.
Yeah, the ones that go through. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but the more shots on goal, the more opportunities, more chances for one of them accurate ones to get in there, or one of them crazy bounces to bounce in.
I mean, yeah, you can't have a bounce if you're not shooting the puck.
No, no, and hopefully, Coach DeBoer has coached them up on clearing the puck out a little bit better, as opposed to trying to clear the puck out and hitting your own player, bouncing it into your own net.
I mean, I hope so, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
know. I felt so bad for Ottinger in that game because I mean you just see the frustration. It was quite apparent.
I want to see him play angry though.
Mm. He was on it the other night against Winnipeg in that game 1. I'm telling you what, he came up with some phenomenal saves.
Yeah, and you got to have the type of goalie that is going to steal the game for the team now and again.
Right?
Like they bag on Jake for not being clutch, but when he's locking the Jets down like he did game 1,
Yeah,
I
I
go
wouldn't
ahead.
knock Jake not being clutch because I'm telling you what, if you look at through his career, he's had some clutch games, like some seriously clutch games. And I tell you what, in shootouts, he's almost unbeatable, especially when you start off with Robertson in a shootout, which I know we're in the playoffs, so we're not going to be seeing any of those. But I'm just saying, Andrews, when he's on, he's on. Okay. I know I always reference the movie The Miracle because that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Hockey fan, U.S. hockey fan. Um, I, and the reason that movie is so prominent to me is because it's one of the few times that I can remember watching sports with my dad. And yes, I was quite young at the time, but I distinctly remember we were in Germany. My father was in the army when those Olympics were going on and watching the U.S. hockey team play, and my dad going ballistic watching that. But anyway, so to take away, from that movie, um, and of course, I can't think of the goaltender's name now. It was just on the tip of my tongue, but there's a point there where they said, you know, they're talking to Herb Brooks, and he's like, so uh, I think Janasek was the one goalie um, who was the goalie for the Minnesota uh, University of Minnesota team that had just won the national championship for Herb Brooks, and they said, "Oh, Craig." So they said, "So you got Janasek, you got Craig backing up Janasek," and Coach Brooks said, "No, it's the opposite way. I got Craig backing up. I got Janasek backing up Craig." And they said, well, how? I mean, you know, Janasek's, won a national championship for you, and you know, when he's on his game." And he's like, "Have you ever seen Craig when he's on his game?" And that right there, you know. So, have you ever seen Ottinger when he's on his game? Yeah, he's almost unstoppable. So,
He is.
I, you know, I take little tidbits from because you can't move forward if you don't understand the past. And sometimes, we as fans, we like to nitpick, especially when a player has a bad game. Ottinger can have a bad game, but if you don't, sometimes you got to look into some of those bad games. It's not all on Ottinger. If our defense is floundering and we're spending, over 50 minutes, 53, 54 minutes in our offensive zone, how much of that are you putting on Ottinger?
I mean, his only job is to stop the puck, not all out defense, for lack of
Exactly.
a better way of putting it.
And he can only do so much.
Yeah, his job is to stay in the net and stop pucks. That's it.
Exactly. So when you look at all of the goaltenders in the league right now, I would put Ottinger against any of them.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. And I feel like with Miko and the way this team is going, you might see a little bit of proof of that.
I
Like,
mean, he had what, a 93% the other night. I mean, come on now. That Who wouldn't take something like in a game like that where he's just getting hammered and hammered and hammered? Yeah, he let two goals slip by. That's going to happen. But you want a goaltender that's going to keep you in a game. You want a goaltender that's not going to be down in like the 80s, 85, 86, even in the upper 80s, 88, 89%.
like he's been since Colorado, I believe. He was 88 point something is what they said
Right.
before the first game of Winnipeg.
Uh-huh. So,
So, yeah.
he's coming on when he needs to come on now. And you got to think, look, he plays a lot more than a lot of goalies out there. There's some goalies that get nights off. Sometimes Ottinger doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see the defense play better in front of him.
I do too.
Like, as short and sweet as I can put it, it's like what Razor said in one of the Victory Plus videos that he's put out, you know, and I think actually somebody from ESPN might have said it, or vice versa. Um, Somebody said you give Jake a clear sight line to the puck, get out of his way, and he'll do the rest.
Yeah.
That's not an exact quote, it's paraphrasing, but it's spot on. Like, Jake, you can't expect him to get a puck when bodies are piled up in front of him.
No, you certainly can't. And the bad part about it is when it's your own bodies that are piled up in front of him.
Dude, that Dallas's defense is bad about that too. Well, sometimes.
Sometimes they've gotten better.
Yeah, they have. I still think they need a bigger defenseman back there, though.
No, they've got that one new guy. I can't remember his name, but like, um,
Bishel?
I think yeah, Bishop. Yeah, somebody was saying he's like 6 foot, like 200 or something, 270 pounds or something. Like, I wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, he's every bit of 6'7" and like 240 or 230.
Yeah, yeah, he's a monster.
Yeah, I like that. I like the back end of, well, a lot of the back end of the Stars, but I'm still not convinced that you're gonna survive if you don't learn to hit. Like, do you need
This
to
is true.
bash? You agree?
I agree, but I will say this: I did notice in that first game against Winnipeg, Dallas was a lot more aggressive than they have been, and in Game 7 against the Avs, it seemed like they were a much more aggressive team. Now, of course, their backs were against the wall, and it was win or go. Win and you're in, lose and you go home. But uh, in the first period, I was really nervous in that Avs game, and I don't know what happened, but the third period they just came out with guns blazing.
It's like what I wrote about in the series preview I did for Winnipeg. All you got to do is come out fast against Winnipeg.
Yeah, come out fast, hit them in the mouth, and they have a hard time dealing with stuff like that.
Yeah, you got to catch them like a deer in the headlights. That's it. It's just that
And
simple.
and if I'm not mistaken, I think if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe I saw a stat where the Stars are the only team in the playoffs right now that had a winning uh, uh, um, uh, uh, on the winning side of the win loss ratio against Winnipeg this season.
I don't know. You're talking about the season record, or are you talking about the goal
Yeah,
differential?
in the season series, season
No,
record.
no, they beat us every game but one.
Did they? Okay, maybe it was a goal ratio or something that I saw. I
Um,
thought I saw about it.
Goal differential. They finished the Colorado series. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of +3, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have wrote it down.
Yeah, so
That's it.
it's something.
+3 goal differential though, and
Mm-mm.
Colorado is a whole different animal. Yeah, like they will come out firing and let you keep up. And I mean, to be fair, that's what Winnipeg did. They were up 1-0 early, and I was like, okay, you know what? I don't feel good. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, the Stars came back and it was 2-1 rather quick. Well, hold on. Rantanen came back and it was 2-1 real quick.
Yeah, I mean that. If there's any X factor on that Dallas Stars roster, I think it could be Rantanen, unless Winnipeg watched him really closely on game film and shuts him down today.
But see, then if they do that, they're going to take the focus off of somebody else.
Yeah, true. This is why I'm thankful
So
I'm talking to an ex-athlete right there. He gets it.
you know that that's the kind of thing. Um, you don't ever want to take the focus off of the star, no matter who you think that star is. I mean, yeah, you're always going to have focus on them, but here's the problem: when you start focusing on the hot hand, you forget of who that star was before, and you focus more on that hot hand, and that's what bites you in the butt.
To build on your point you just made, Evgeny Dodonov is in the fourth line.
Almost in the third line right now, and I saw
Yeah.
somebody say he's probably never going to be back in that first line again. I don't know, time will tell, but that tells you where this Stars team is right now.
It's loaded on the offensive end. It sure is.
You know, if we could just get this defense figured out, this team could be unstoppable.
Maybe you just stay out of Jake's way.
Yeah. And if we could avoid some of the silly penalties we've been getting, the penalties that, don't really affect the play in itself. Getting a high stick when you're just trying to clear a puck, it's like, oh, come on, guys.
Mm. It's almost like those penalties happen when they're trying to keep up or catch up.
The other night, you weren't watching it, but I'm telling you, we uh, we were down to like 4 minutes left in the third period, and I forget who it was, but they got caught with doing a high stick and wound up putting us down and putting them on the power play. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, well, I know we're good on power play, but still, I don't want to challenge the power play this late in the game. And it was nerve wracking. Like it was edge of your seat every shot, and Ottinger was on it, thank God, because there were a couple points there where it was like you didn't know if the puck was going in or not. In fact, at one point, the ref was climbing over the back of the dang net just to make sure to see if the puck went into the net or not.
Oh, I couldn't have handled that. I would have been sick as a dog.
Oh, I'm telling you, it was. Oh, when we finished off that power play, and then they were in the empty net. I mean that's nerve wracking as it is right there. Even 6-on-5. You're like, okay, what shot's gonna go in? What shot's gonna go in? And even though all it would have done at that point was tie it up, I didn't want to go into overtime against this team. I wanted to get the job done, game one, and get out of there.
That needs to be their mentality through the next 6 games or whatever the case may be. Put your
I
foot.
completely agree.
You agree?
I agree. They need to put their foot on the gas, and you know what? When you got this team going and you got Winnipeg down, you got to keep it going. You got to keep that momentum. You can't let up.
I mean,
The,
them. Go ahead.
the minute you let up is the minute that this team is gonna kill you.
They're not the President's Trophy winner by some fluke. They deserved it. They played well.
Oh,
Yeah, to piggyback off what you said, it's like championship boxing fight where we're the challenger, they're the champ. If you don't start swinging and even keep them down on the ground or in the corner, they'll fight back. And so
the only
you,
thing, the only
hmm?
thing that I'm hoping for is number one with that win against uh, the Avs in Game 7, and then this Game one win. I'm hoping that boosts this confidence on this team and gets this team thinking in the right direction and staying positive and like I said, just coming out guns a blazing.
I hope they come out swinging a little bit faster because they were down 1-0 and it
Oh
took a
yeah,
comeback.
you know. But if you look at this playoffs here lately, it's been the playoffs of comebacks. Look how many comebacks have been just just over the last couple of nights. I mean, you got. I was mentioning it to you just last night. You got the Oilers that had to come back against the Knights. They were down 2-0.
You saw what I said about Edmonton, right?
Yeah, I saw what you said. I saw I saw someone say something about the Stars don't want anything to do with Edmonton. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
I mean, I'm more worried about Winnipeg personally. That's just me.
Oh, right now, clearly, and that's what we need to be focusing on. Forget the worrying about what's going on with Edmonton.
Yeah,
Well, let's let Las Vegas deal with them right now.
You know what? I hope that game. I hope that series goes 7.
Oh, I do too.
I don't care who wins the series. Let it go 7.
I
What
would
else?
love, I'd love for ours to go to a 5 or a 6 and them to go to a 7.
Yes, yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Give us a little bit of rest. Let the next opponent, well, maybe be tired, maybe be a little dinged up. I don't want to speak
Ho-
that. What's that?
Hopefully,
Hopefully. Well, I don't want to speak ill on human beings.
no, no, but hey, I'll take whatever advantage we can get if it happens. I'm not gonna applaud it. I'm not gonna wish it. I'm not gonna say I hope this player gets hurt or that player gets hurt. But if going to a game seven, series 7, and someone's not at 100% going in against us, if we make it to the next round, I'm all for it.
Yeah, but at the same time, there will be fans out there that are butthurt if the Stars survive that go, well, the only reason y'all went X far is because this team, that team was dinged up and your team wasn't.
You know what I got to say to that?
Uh-oh.
Next man up. Only the great teams can win when their stars are injured.
Ooh,
Plain
nice
and
pun.
plain and simple. So here, I'm gonna challenge you on something. I'm gonna challenge you on something.
All
Now,
right, let's go.
I know everybody is on Brady and blah 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 blah. Let me ask you something. How many star wide receivers did he actually ever have and win with? Now,
Uh,
how many wide receivers became a star? I'm not talking about those that became a star because of him and because of him throwing to them and them having a stellar season. I'm saying you see teams do this all the time. Go after the Ocho Cinco's and all these and these other wide receivers back then, trying to make their team better, going after these star wide receivers. How many star wide receivers came in there and they won with? I mean, they had Randy Moss. They didn't win a Super Bowl with him, but they had him.
and he was big time when he was with the Vikings.
Vikings. Yeah. So either your team is good enough to win without stars, or your team's just not that good. And they have to have them stars in order to be that good. We
Yeah,
won against the Avs with two of our big stars out of the lineup.
that's true.
One of our biggest stars was out of the lineup. One of our top scorers over the last 3 seasons was out of the lineup against the Avs, and we won.
That's true.
So now, we're okay. If you're gonna excuse it because we won because that star was out, where's the excuse because we won when our star is out?
Mm.
And I'll even put it out there right now. Robo's back in the lineup, yes, but he's still not 100%. He's still not to his old self. I can tell you that watching him play the other night.
And we don't even know how long that's going to take. Like, you can practice all you want, but that doesn't matter as much as being out there in the game and
Right?
seeing the ice clearly and all that good stuff.
Right. And see, this is one of those things where, if you remember way earlier when we did another show, I said I never was a fan, and I'm never a fan of resting your players. I think it's horrible. I think it can affect the whole speed of your game. Now, granted, there are some players that never lose that speed. You've got the Brett Favres of the world who are a rarity, who could, or the Steve McNair. Steve McNair was famous for it. Go back and Go back and look into the Tennessee Titans when Steve McNair was there. May he rest in peace. He was one of my feet, hands down, still is one of my favorite quarterbacks, and I still feel one of the best quarterbacks next to Dan Marino, who played the game and never won a Super Bowl. But you go back and you watch, especially when they would make their playoff runs. McNair would not practice the whole week. He was dealing with injuries, turf toe, and you can knock turf toe all you want. When you rely on your feet and you're a quarterback, that is a major injury. That man played with a separated shoulder, did not practice the whole week, came in and won games.
I
So
mean, if you want to throw hockey into that, that's kind of Rupe Hintz.
exactly. So now those are the one-offs. Most athletes, most players, most people, you're going to have some rust on you.
Yep.
And especially if it's due to an injury. If it's due to an injury, you're really going to have some rust on you. The speed of the game is a whole different ball game than practice. So yeah, it's going to take them some time to get back in there. And like, yeah, it's great to have him out there. He's a focal point, and that right now that's all he really is. He's a focal point. He's something for our opponents to focus on, but he's not at 100%, and he's not to his game potential. He'll get there. We don't know when he'll get there, but he'll get there. Could be tonight. Could be. Everybody's going to be different. Robo may be a fast healer. Maybe it'll take him just tonight to get it clicking, and you never know. I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't come out and score tonight. I wouldn't be shocked, or at least maybe get an assist or something.
Hey, an assist is still a point. So
Exactly. So, but we don't know that 100%. So no, either your team is good enough to play without your stars, or they're just not that good, and they shouldn't have even been there because had it not been for those stars, they wouldn't have been there. So, which way is it? So, no. Any fan that wants to complain if we win because their star was injured, get out of here. And I'll take this even further. I'll throw a team that's great and say it. And hey, and I'm going to the NBA on this one. Had Michael Jordan not been in there, the Bulls would not have won three in a row twice. Proof is in the pudding. What did they do the 2 years that Michael Jordan was gone? Now, hey, I thank Michael Jordan for being gone them 2 years and chasing his baseball dream because it let my Rockets win, because my Rockets filled that void and won. But honest and truly, Jordan was, and I'm not saying that he was the only player on that team that was great, but Jordan had a way of pushing that team to be greater than what they were. I mean, that team was still great even without him. I mean, you still had stars on that team, but they didn't have the one star that pushed that team over the edge. And I can go even further than that. Edmonton back in the days when they won their Stanley Cups with one Wayne Gretzky. The LA Knights when they won their Stanley Cup with one Wayne Gretzky.
He means Vegas, guys.
Kings. I'm sorry, not Knights.
Kings.
Kings, not Vegas. I'm talking. The K got in there. We were just talking about the Knights a few minutes, the Golden Knights a few minutes ago. The Kings, excuse me, the
Kings,
Kings
there you go.
would not have been the team they were without Gretzky. Now, those are teams that without that singular player, you know. And I'll go even further. The Dallas Stars, when we won, yes, we had great players, but you know who the catalyst was? Mike Modano. Love him or hate him. He was the catalyst that pushed that team to be greater than what they were.
I mean, he that squad would not have been that squad without him. For that
No,
matter, I don't even know if Joe Newendike would have had the success. You know, they all bring something, whether it's on the ice or off, like leadership or, obviously talent or whatever. But without Mo, there was something missing.
yeah. I mean, yeah, we had Sergei Zubov. I mean, he was phenomenal, great, but he didn't have that it factor that pushed that team to be greater than what they were. He was great individually. Modano had that it factor that just made that team greater than what they were. Now, granted, it's still a team effort and it still takes the entire team. So I'm not saying that he's the only thing that caused them to do that. What I'm saying is those are the players that push teams over the edge to be great. And you know how you know that? Because here we are, what, almost 30 years later, and we're still talking about Modano. We're still talking about Gretzky. We're still talking about Brett Favre. We're still talking about, Tom Brady. So, yeah,
You got another one too in Victory Green, by the way. His name's Miko.
yeah,
He's one of those teams that says I'm going to the or one of those teams, one of those players
those
that
players.
that says I'm going to the top, and he puts his hand out and says I'm taking you with me.
Yeah, puts the team on his shoulders. And you know what? We have been looking for that for years in Dallas. We have
Yeah.
been needing that for years in Dallas. Ben is a great captain, but he doesn't have the it that is I'm gonna put you guys on my back and I'm gonna carry you to the promised land.
Well, okay. I love you, and I'm not saying any ill towards you, but I sort of disagree on that. He's a phenomenal captain. He's a great guy. But I think the better point would be that if it's not a younger guy, he probably wouldn't help elevate them very well. Because Miko Rantanen, you could put anybody with him, and it's like they've been playing together forever. Jamie
Mhm.
Benn, you put him with a Wyatt Johnston, and those two, oh my, you know what I'm saying?
Look, I'm not saying and once again, what I'm saying is it factor to push that team over the edge.
That's
I'm
definitely
not
Miko.
talking. What I'm saying is Ben is a great captain. He's a
Yeah.
wonderful mentor. He did an excellent job mentoring. Between him and Pavelski, mentoring Wyatt Johnson into the player that he's becoming. I give all the credit in the world to both Pavelski and Jamie Benn, and I'll argue that till I'm blue till I'm blue in the face. Had it not been for those two players, Wyatt Johnson may not be the player he is today. Period. Period. Yes, he's got the talent, but you need those type of players, those veterans, to hone it. And him living with Pavelski and learning from him on how to be a good human being off the ice, and then playing with Jamie Benn and learning how to be a good player on the ice. So yeah, I'm not arguing with you that Jamie Benn is not. He's an outstanding, great player. I'm talking about those players that push teams over that hump.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And Jamie Benn, yeah, I mean, honest and truly, what has he done so far lately in the playoffs? He really hasn't done a lot. I mean, he's captained, but he's been quiet.
He is quiet. Period.
Yeah, he is the quiet captain. Yes, he is. Although I have seen some of his mic'd up stuff, he's not as quiet as we think he is.
I love the mic'd up stuff.
And I love Jamie Benn, and I wouldn't ask for anybody else to be our captain. And he does what he does. He does his job good. He does his job as our captain wonderfully. But sometimes it's not the captain. Okay, Mike Bonanno was not a captain, but he was the player that pushed that team over the edge.
He was the we'll say X Factor. Why not?
Well, there you go. There you go. The X factor.
Because
So
every other player on that team had their role and they fit that role and they did their job. But Mike Madonna, you always had to plan for him.
yes, and
So
Mikko Rantanen is becoming that player for this team, which excites me because we got him for the next what 5 seasons.
I believe it's 8 actually.
Oh, is it? That's right. It is. Oh shoot,
Yeah, you
eight
got him
seasons.
for 8 years, sir.
We I was thinking about a different contract. I was reading earlier today one of our players that we signed him for the Texans. We signed
Ah,
him for four rookies.
either way, your
4 seasons,
point.
$11 million.
Either way, your point is a valid point. Like Miko's going to be here for the next 8, and
Yeah.
he's going to continue to be the guy that elevates others. Like I'll go ahead and say Joe Pavelski.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? What did we say when Pavelski retired? That's going to be a hole that we're going to miss, and it's going to be a hole that's going to be hard to fill. And I think it's been a hole that our front office has been looking to fill. And when they saw the opportunity with Rantanen, I think they saw that. I think they said, "Hey, this guy could fill that Pavelski hole."
I mean, I think he's done good. I think he's filled that hole, and I think he's overflowed that hole. I think that dirt is piled up.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
he's.
honestly, truly, if you look at the moves that our front office has done over the last 2 or 3 years, I think they've done phenomenal. From Dodonov, they have brought players in who have impacted this team. I mean, you look at some of these teams that bring in some of these bigger stars, and the bigger stars go to these teams, and it's almost like they get lost, or they fizzle, or they don't do as good as they did when they were in their previous set. And once again, I bring that back to you can bring the stars to the team. If that team doesn't gel, it doesn't matter. And you, as a Cowboys fan, and I'm not, I'm just saying, you know, you have had teams in the past that have had major big stars on it, and you guys should have won and gone to a Super Bowl, but it just didn't happen because you know why? They just didn't meld. They weren't an actual team. There are a bunch of individuals that were on a team.
Yeah. Yeah. To piggyback off of what you said, if I can actually get it out and my brain could work, um, there's too many egos when you have a team full of stars. Like, I'm not saying any of the stars are not quote unquote star caliber players, but they're guys that are willing to put their egos aside. And we saw this last season with Joe when everybody was saying, what was it? A lot for a little.
Yeah, a lot for a little.
They were even taking pay cuts. So a lot for a little. That says everything you need to know, and that is why I will die on this hill. Jim Nill. Oh, by the way, Tyler Sagan just entered the chat. Not really, but I'm talking figuratively. Tyler Sagan was brought in for Ryan Button and or no, with Ryan Button and a bunch of people I can't even remember. Louis Erickson, blah blah blah. One, just one. One of those players still in the league,
Yep.
and it's Tyler. I'm going to be brutally honest here. I don't remember who all was involved in the trade, but there was a few quote unquote big names that were tossed around to get Tyler.
And that's
And
another one. And that's another one that can take over a game.
Sagan, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I love that kid. I will, yeah, I'll die on that hill. I love that kid. Um,
And
if you
and,
put,
and here's another thing about this team, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to make this point. We
Go
have
for
a
it.
very we have a very unselfish team. If you look at the stars, we have players like I can almost guarantee you if Rantanen goes out there and sees that he's getting a lot of double teams and they're focusing on him, he'll thrive in that and he'll take that on in order to open up somebody else.
You want to build up Wyatt Johnston? That's the perfect time right there.
Oh, good Lord. Them two on the line together, that's oof.
That would be fun.
For us. I don't know that that would be so much fun for Winnipeg, but it would be definitely fun for us.
I don't care who it's not fun for. I want to see that line.
Well, and we all know Coach DeBoer, he's not afraid to do experimental lines in the middle of a game if he thinks it's going to give us an advantage.
And here's the thing, to go back to what you just said, you don't have any egos on this team. Everybody's willing to work to do that.
Yeah, one goal.
That and you know what? A lot of those people. Oh, hang on. I'm gonna erase what I was just thinking from my mind, and I'm gonna ask you a question. Say the Stars got a wild hair up their rear ends. It's not gonna happen. Just a fantasy question, but a question nonetheless. Somebody like Ovi Ovechkin becomes a free agent. Somebody like Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin becomes a free agent. Dallas brings them all in, puts them all on the line with what we have now. That team's button heads, are they not?
Oh, definitely. And I think our front office is smart enough not to do something like that. And in fact, I always find it funny when it comes to the time for, free agency and things like that. You go to some of these fan forums and everybody's screaming about, oh, let's go after this guy, let's go after that guy. And then they bring in somebody that nobody even thought of. I mean, we nobody was looking at Dodonov when we brought him in. I don't even remember him even being brought up in the chat. And I can
No.
remember people saying, really? That's who we're bringing in? And people were complaining. And why aren't we going after the big dogs and this and another? And that goes back to what I'm saying. Team chemistry is much more important than the individual's stats. Let me
It
say that
is.
again. Team chemistry is way more important than an individual stats. It's great to look on paper and say, look how good this guy is. Honest and truly, I don't think, let's go back in time and let's just say in a fantasy league, because we all like playing the video games, playing the NHL, games and the NBA games and the NFL games, and we like to take these players and make and create these Frankenstein teams that would be great. But in all honesty, truthfully, if we would have had Modano and Gretzky on the same team, I don't think it would be successful. I think it would
No.
have some success, but in the long run, I don't think it would be a successful uh, experiment because you're just going to have too much butting of the heads. You're going to have you're going to have the media frenzies and all this craziness, and I don't think that the personalities are going to melt. If you look at that Stanley Cup team, we had so many great individual players, but individual players that played with a single mindset. Get the job done, win the Stanley Cup. And you had Hitchcock, who was a phenomenal coach, who knew how to, number one, set these lines up to dominate. Number two, knew how to coach these guys to play at their full potential. I mean, we had Sergei Zubov, we had Brett Hall, we had Mike Modano, Ed Belfour. I mean, a who's who in Dallas Star lore back then.
But a lot of those guys are legends and Hall of Famers because they did their job for the team.
Exactly. And here's another thing. They weren't legends before. They became legends as a team.
Well, what about Craig Ludwig?
Yeah. I mean, there. Of course, you're always going to have those, but I'm just saying, in gen, in general, you know, that team created their lore.
Yeah, they were all ready to, dig their knuckles as deep into the dirt as they could and just go.
Yeah,
That's kind of what this team looks like a little bit.
it sure is. This team is starting to get that feel to me,
I,
and
I,
I hope they're able to continue it.
yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. I hope they can get 3 more games, man. That's all I'm worried about. And that's
Well,
crazy. By the way, all you have to do is win 3 more games.
yeah, yeah. Three more and you move on.
That's nuts. We're used to saying, "Oh, nope, we lost game 1."
Yeah. Now we got four more to go. We're kind of in uncharted territory, but you know what? It's like Coach Boris said. Most of our game ones have been at home, and we've lost that. So maybe us being away is what changes the tide. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But unfortunately, I am going to have to run. This has been fun. I'm going to say I think this. I'm going to go for the Stars to win tonight. I don't want to jinx it by giving a goal ratio. I don't want to say this or that. I'm just going to say I feel good about saying I think the Stars are going to win the night and head into Dallas with a two nothing. Definitely, where Winnipeg has that 2 to nothing deficit against the Stars.
Ooh, I'm just gonna counter your up 2-0 in the series with a I need to stay awake tonight.
Well, if you don't, I'll try to keep it up with you.
That works too. All right, yeah. I think, like you just said, I think that's the perfect place to end it, man. Thank you for your time.
Most definitely. Go Stars.
Go Stars. Hopefully, I'll talk to you soon. And I'm out. Bye,
I'm out.
folks.